Hey YouTube, it's Dillon James, and it is week 5 in the NFL, and today we're going to be talking about the 2021 rookie quarterbacks to compare their performances on the field with how they're performing in the sports card market. So just a few weeks ago, we had a video about the 2021 rookie quarterbacks, which you can check out right here, talking about how they'd perform in the first few weeks of the season. Now we are at the about quarter mark of the season, since there are 17 games this year. We're in week 5. We're going to talk about how these rookie quarterbacks have done on the field and see if it translates into the sports card market with how well their prices have been doing in the open market. So let's take a look at some of these statistics from NFL.com, and we can also look at some of the card prices on our Cardbase app. So first up is Mr. Zach Wilson of the New York Jets. I was hoping he was going to play a lot better than he did in the first few games, but as we can see with the statistics here, he has not played very well for the Jets. It's just because he's had a lot of pressure in his face. The offensive line there is not very good, and outside of Corey Davis, they don't really have many threats to throw the ball to. But you look at the statistics from week in, week out for Zach Wilson, starting with number 1, the Panthers. He threw 2 touchdowns, threw an interception. Overall, in the season so far, he's thrown for 4 touchdowns and 9 interceptions. He got sacked 18 times. That just tells you that he has a very, very bad offensive line. And with his card prices, they have kind of faltered, especially with Don Russ. So we're going to look at Don Russ cards for all these quarterbacks. And with these cards, you'll usually see a significant spike at the very beginning once the product is released, which in this case, Don Russ was released last month. So you'll see the spike at the very beginning, but then it tapers off and it gets down to a value that is more realistic. So we will see some prices that are quite high with this card. Very beginning of this, it was $45.97 was the value. That was the price it was selling at on eBay. It has gone down significantly over the past month during the play that Zach Wilson has had in the NFL with the New York Jets. But you look now, the value is $9.99 on October 8th. That was the last sale of this card. But this card itself, it's a great card. I think it's a card that you could hold on to. Base-wise, you're going to see more cards in the market now with Origins out. You're going to see more products like Optic coming out in the next few weeks as well. They're going to be better products to purchase these rookies, and you're going to see these prices go down probably a bit more until you start seeing graded versions of these cards. Now, we've talked about it several times on this channel that people love pro uniforms, and that's the reason why people latch on to Don Russ so much. The rated rookie is typically the rookie card that collectors and investors look for when it comes to these new quarterbacks that are coming into the league. So this is the kind of card that you're going to be looking for, especially graded, once they come back graded. And you'll also see some color variations too. They have red press proof, blue press proof. They have new variations this year. They're portrait variations, which we talked about last week in our break with one of our subscribers. So you'll see some of these cards coming out. They are definitely good cards to have, especially the short prints like that portrait version of these cards. But Zach Wilson's card has tailed off. It is the lowest valued of the 5 rookies we're going to be talking about today. Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence, and Mac Jones. But Zach Wilson, his numbers have not looked the best so far. He is at the bottom of the totem pole, but again, he has more upside in his career, long-term hold-wise. So if you can get a few of these out on the open market, ungraded, I would say probably go for it. Just grab a few of them, possibly send them out to grading, either SGC, HGA, PSA, Beckett. One of these companies, I would probably say PSA would probably be your best bet when it comes to these rated rookies, because that's what usually people go for. But let's look at this next quarterback. Trey Lance actually was announced as the starting quarterback this week against the Cardinals. That was a very, very tough game to start off with as the starting quarterback there in San Francisco. But he actually held his own. He did have 1 interception, but he only got sacked twice, and he actually ran for 89 yards in that game. So a solid outing for Trey Lance, and also in a loss. They only lost by 7 points in this game. The defense really kept them in this game against the Cardinals. Kyler Murray this year is an MVP caliber player. He is definitely in the conversation for MVP already in week 5. But you look at it, the numbers aren't terrible for Trey Lance. There is a lot of upside for him. I think that in San Francisco, they're looking for him to be the quarterback of the future. Jimmy Garoppolo went down with an injury, and he's had several injury situations occur while he's been in San Francisco and also in New England as well. But yeah, so having the injury history of Jimmy Garoppolo, this is probably a good purchase right now for Trey Lance. His prices have gone up quite a bit, actually. So at the very beginning, you see a $32 valuation on September 12th. But since then, it had a little dip because he wasn't playing at all, but he was still hovering around $13, $10 to $13, somewhere around there. But then it spiked to $23.99 on eBay. That was one of the sales here. So if we look down at the sales data, the fixed price here, October 9th, $23.99 was the price here. So we will see some more sales that are probably in that range, maybe a little bit higher too, just because of him coming out. And this was actually out of this world insert as well. So that's a cool thing about this. I had actually reported this as well. But this card is still at about $13. You can report this when you're on your Cardbase. If you do see a card that might be in there that is not the specific card you're looking at, you can actually click on this remove and report, put a little comment in there, and our designers will actually come in and be able to go on the back end to take that card out for you to give you a better picture of that pricing. But still, it's still hovering around $13. It is a little bit higher than Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson's card is coming around $10. So Trey Lance has some upside, especially being the starting quarterback there in San Francisco. At least until Jimmy Garoppolo is healthy. I don't think they've come out saying that he's going to be the main starter there in San Fran moving forward. But this week he had that start. I don't think he showed enough to say, hey, I'm going to be the starting quarterback for the rest of the year. But we'll see what happens with Jimmy Garoppolo. We'll see if he can come back from injury. And if he does, he might be able to take over that position unless Trey Lance shows us a better performance next week in Week 6. Now let's move on to the Chicago Bears. Justin Fields finally became the starting quarterback last week. Didn't have a very, very good performance last week, but came back this week. They did say that he was going to be the starting quarterback moving forward, even if Andy Dalton came back healthy. So Justin Fields is the starting quarterback there in Chicago. Like I said, it wasn't the best performance for him against the Lions, but they still won. It was a 24-14 win there, but one interception and a sack for Justin Fields. But overall in the season so far, he's only had 3 starts so far, and the numbers: 458 yards passing so far. Also, 59 yards rushing, which is kind of interesting because we've seen Justin Fields run quite a bit in Ohio State. So he's actually, I guess, becoming more of a pocket passer there in Chicago. So we'll see how that works. As of right now, he's going to remain the starter there in Chicago. This is going to be good for investors, good for collectors. I think that you'll see him play better as the season progresses. Let's take a look at his Don Russ 2021 card. It's valued at $14 right now. You did see a little spike at the very beginning of about $39.64. Did go down, had a little spike again on September 25th. I think that was when there were talks he was going to be the actual starting quarterback for the team. But then it's tapered back down to about $14. So you can definitely see these cards out on the market. Again, I would look more towards the short print versions of this card. So the headshot version of this card, I think that's probably the best play here. But again, Justin Fields looking very good. He is actually going to be a starting quarterback there in Chicago, and he might have more upside than Zach Wilson and Trey Lance, at least this season, especially with that defense. The defense has won them games, especially today against the Raiders. A huge win for the Chicago Bears. 20-9 was the win there. And Justin Fields didn't really do too much in that game. And so the defense actually won them that game, which was great for him, great for the team, and we'll see what happens moving forward for the Chicago Bears. Now let's move on to another quarterback, the number 1 overall draft pick, Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville. Hoy vey. Jacksonville is a hot mess. However, Trevor Lawrence, I did go to the game in Jacksonville against Tennessee Titans today on Sunday, and it was a great game for the Tennessee Titans. However, Trevor Lawrence did look pretty good as the starting quarterback there. Did get sacked several times, was pressured quite a bit, did run, use his legs a little bit as well, ran for 28 yards there in 7 attempts. But you look at it, a 92.1 quarterback rating, that's pretty good for a loss in this scenario. Scored 19 points, had 1 touchdown, 1 interception, was only sacked twice, but he is looking more poised in that system. He is looking better than he did the first few weeks. As we can see from his season stats, he has 6 touchdowns and 8 interceptions so far. He's been sacked only 8 times, which is I think the least of everybody except for Trey Lance so far in the season. So he is doing pretty well in Jacksonville. He isn't living up to the number 1 overall draft pick yet, but I think it's just because of the team around him. He's building more chemistry with Laviska Shenault, and also some other players there in the Jacksonville offense. And the defense is playing mediocre. It's not the defense that we're used to seeing. When Blake Bortles was starting quarterback there in Jacksonville, where they were lights out, Jalen Ramsey and Miles Jack and all those guys, that defense has come back to earth a bit over the past few seasons, but they're a few pieces away in Jacksonville from being contenders for the playoffs, not necessarily the Super Bowl, but Trevor Lawrence will be able to develop in this system. I do believe that Trevor Lawrence has a very high ceiling in Jacksonville. We'll see if all of the drama around Urban Meyer and that organization clears to where he can actually focus on football and become a better quarterback in this league. But let's look at his card. His card's hovering around $14 as well. At the very beginning, it was spiking around $45, but it has seen an upward trajectory since October 5th. Here, the last valuation it's saying at $19 today. So we do see there are some sales moving in the right direction for Trevor Lawrence. And again, the one problem with Trevor Lawrence, there's a lot of cards of his on the market, especially Topps cards. He had that partnership with Topps X, and it was a crossover, had the art cards, things of that nature. There's a lot of product for Trevor Lawrence. So that's the only one downside I have of Trevor Lawrence being the number 1 overall draft pick and having that Topps exclusive licensing before the season started. There's a lot of Trevor Lawrence cards out there, so the market might be too saturated already with his cards. So I would probably wait until we see some of these bigger cards come out of some of these newer products that are going to be coming out in the next few months, of Optic and things of that nature. I think that we should probably wait on those or look for variation card or number cards for Trevor Lawrence instead of the base rookies. So let's look at Mac Jones. Last but not least, Mac Jones has been lighting up the league so far. He beat out Cam Newton for the starting quarterback job. We thought it was because Cam Newton just wasn't playing well in the preseason and in training camp, but it's showing now. Bill Belichick saw something in training camp and in the preseason, and now we're getting to see that as well. So Mac Jones has been the most successful so far of the rookie quarterbacks. He's thrown for 1,243 yards so far this season in 5 games so far. Just one against the Texans in a very, very close game, 25-22. They are 2-3, however, but still, he is putting up some very, very good numbers. I do think that once they start putting more points on the board, he'll get more familiar with this organization and this offensive scheme, and also the players around him. He had Hunter Henry several times today. He had several good connections with him. I think that once he gets involved more in the offense and has his key players playing at that high level and they get that chemistry going, I think that Mac Jones will play very, very well in the stretch of the season this year. We'll see if they can make the playoffs. As of right now, they're below 500. They're at 2-3, so they'll have to do some work on their end, but I can see Mac Jones being a factor heading into the fall and heading into the playoff fight towards the end of the season. So let's look at his Donruss 2021 card as well. Right now, his value is the highest at $15.90, and this card actually started off at $92. That was the high value of this card on September 11th. It has gone down like all the others, but it's actually stayed at a pretty high valuation, around the $20 mark. On Sunday, it actually sold for $25 on eBay as well. So you've seen these cards. Again, they kind of hover usually between like the $10 to $20 range of these cards. Again, I would be looking for cards in these newer products that will be coming out in the next few weeks and few months. Some of the retail products as well when it comes to these quarterbacks, and that's probably going to be a better play than some of these Donruss cards. But if you can find Donruss press proofs, Donruss numbereds, Donruss autograph cards, those cards are going to have some extremely high value because they are the rookie card in the market. They are the consensus rookie card typically amongst collectors and investors. So I would definitely look out for those and kind of stay clear of the base cards. But in this scenario, you see that the values of these players are hovering around, again, $10 to $20. Some of these players are going up. Some of these players are kind of staying static. However, Mac Jones right now and Trey Lance are the two that are actually skyrocketing because Trey Lance's start today against the Cardinals, and then Mac Jones just been playing the best out of the rookies so far. So we'll see how these pan out, but let me know in the comments what you think, what your thoughts are on the 2021 quarterback class. If you like this video, hit that like button. If you like this channel, if you like the content we're creating here, hit that subscribe button, click that notification bell, so every time we post a new video, you will be the first to know about it. Thanks once again for watching this week, guys. We'll see you next time.